If you're looking for all the answers, I don't have them. But what I do have is a particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills I think would be beneficial to you. So that's why I'm doing this. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Sports Card Investigator. My name is Andy. I am the Sports Card Investigator. And first and foremost, happy belated New Year. Hope everyone had a great New Year. Let's hope that 2021 is much better than 2020. And in the grand scheme of things, that really should not be that hard to accomplish. So what are you guys thinking for 2021 as far as your sports card resolutions? Do you have any? I mean, are we going to do better research, better decision making? Are we going to start grading? Are we going to stop grading? Tell you what, I'm always looking for excuses to give some stuff away. So comment below on what you think you would like to do going forward in 2021 regarding your sports card endeavors. It could be a resolution. It could be something you want to try to do. It could be whatever. Just comment on it, and I'll tell you what, I will put forth the comments between a panel of 3 judges, me, myself, and I'll choose a few. And the choose a few I will actually read on the next episode, and I'll send you guys some prizes. So we'll have some fun with that. So, as you guys know, I listen and watch as much of the content related to sports cards as I possibly can. And there's a lot out there, no doubt. And all of these content creators, influencers, they provide a lot of information. And it really runs the gamut on the kind of topics that these guys and gals provide. And I really believe down deep, they do their best in trying to present useful information. And a lot of these people that are providing the information are brilliant. They are just so smart in what they provide to us as content consumers. I mean, in all reality, some of these guys have probably forgot more about collecting and investing in sports cards than I'll ever know. And that's an amazing resource. The expertise, second to none. But with that said, there's also some not so useful information out there. And it's just up to us to separate the two. So because there's so many new people in the hobby entering it every single day, which is fantastic, I decided to perform a little experiment. And I used myself as the guinea pig. I put myself in the shoes of someone who is just starting out in the sports card community. And if I was them, going onto YouTube and selecting those videos that would catch my eye as a beginning collector / investor. Then after I watched the video, I would think to myself if I had any questions, and if those questions were asked or answered in the comments. But here's the kicker. As a new person, I may or may not know what the correct answer to the question is, or more importantly, how would I know what questions to ask? Because unfortunately, new people, and I think it's human nature, sometimes we accept what people that we think have the information provide, whether it's based on fact or opinion or assumptions. And how do I know that? Well, because I watched, other than watching the videos, or in more than just watching the videos, I read all the comments. And instead of seeing questions about the content provided, I see a lot of general comments that say, great job, awesome information, fantastic, which I know from my experience just isn't the case. If I had the privilege in my career to work with some of the most innovative and intelligent agents ever to put on a DEA badge, and these agents were incredible investigators, and what separated them from other agents was their ability to examine information, draw conclusions based on analysis, and most importantly, separate fact and from fiction. And how did they do that? They did that by challenging people on what they were saying by asking inquisitive, probing, and pointed questions. And one of the tactics that I used to use was to ask the same question several different ways, and you would be surprised to see how many different answers you received. And I think I mentioned to you guys before, I travel around the country. I do consulting work for veterinarians. I instruct them on the rules and regulations surrounding controlled substances, those drugs that they keep in their practice. And when I discover they're doing something wrong, I ask them why they're doing it that way. And 9 times out of 10, they tell me because someone told them to. And when I ask them who told them to, or why they're doing it in that way because someone told them to, they usually say they aren't sure, but they've always done it that way. Therefore, they think in their mind it must be okay. Now, in the vet world, there are DEA policies and procedures, and those are called the Code of Federal Regulations. So there's no guesswork. You just have to go into the Code of Federal Regulations, dig deep until you find what you're looking for, and you get the right answers. And I give lectures across the country about controlled substances, and when people attend, they get continuing education credits because what I teach, what I lecture on, has been vetted and verified, and therefore the answers I give are factual and correct. In our community, there is no manual, there is no regulation, there is no accreditation. Therefore, there are no policies and procedures. I could tell you anything. Remember, just because me or anyone else is on YouTube, that does not give us the automatic stamp of credibility. It's up to you to vet the information and use it accordingly. Have you guys ever heard of the pot roast principle? It's one of the stories I always tell in my lectures. I think it's a great story. Not sure where it emanates from, but it proves the point to a T. One day, after school, a young girl noticed that her mom was cutting off the end of a pot roast before putting it into the oven to cook for dinner. She had seen her mom do this many, many times in the past, but she's never asked why. So this time, she drew up courage and said, "Hey Mom, why in the world are you cutting the ends off that pot roast before you stick it in the oven?" And her mother answered, "Because that's what my mom always did. Why don't you ask her?" So the girl walked down the street to where her grandmother lived, and she asked her grandmother, "Grandma, why do you cut the ends off the pot roast before you cook it?" And her grandmother replied, "I don't know, but that's the way my mom always did it. Why don't you ask her?" So as luck would have it, this young girl's great-grandmother was alive and well living in Boca. So she picked up the phone and called. And she said, "Great-grandma, why did you cut the ends off a pot roast before cooking it?" And her grandmother did not say what the girl had expected. She didn't say, "I cut the ends off the pot roast because that's what my mother did." She didn't say because she read that it makes the meat juicier. No, instead she said, "When I was married, we had a very small oven, and the pot roast didn't fit, so I cut the ends off." So what does this have to do with sports cards? Well, everything. We do things in this industry without knowing why. We assume the person giving the information just knows better. They say things, and they say it with conviction, and they have a platform, and they say it in front of hundreds, thousands, sometimes many thousands of people. And we don't understand that it's not factual, when in most cases it's just assumption, or worse, their perception. And that's when we run into trouble. This is what happens when we don't ask questions. If we can't identify the reason for a particular process or practice for an answer, then isn't it reasonable to question why that is? And if the content provider can provide us an adequate answer, then how can we deem that information as factual or even useful? If we don't hold the information provider accountable, then we cannot complain about its outcomes. And as content creators, we should encourage questions. It will keep us on our game. The content that we provide should provoke questions. It's what will keep us sharp. So, getting back to my original point about a new person diving into the hobby. Well, let's take a close look at some information provided by some content creators, and let's decide whether or not they warrant additional questions. Or should we just take the questions, or should we just take their information at face value? Remember, before we dive in a pool, let's make sure the pool has some water. So I was watching a video a little while back about grading. And I did this mainly because I did my own video on grading, and I wanted to see how it compared. It was good. I mean, it was a short video. It was probably 15 or 16 minutes long. I think the video I did was probably about an hour and a half. It was pretty intense. And as I said, for the most part, it was fine. But the provider said something that really caught me off guard or threw me for a loop. And in that video, and I'm going to paraphrase, he said, "I'm not going to talk about directly going to PSA. To me, honestly, group subbing is the way to go. Find yourself a group subber, whoever that may be, and send your cards to him. They are preferred by PSA, and PSA is making it pretty much impossible to submit cards yourself." So, is that accurate and true information? Now, if I were new to the game, would I take that at face value, considering the source, who I'm not going to say who it was, but considering this person has several thousand followers? Well, I can tell you for a fact that that information is not true and correct. It's actually, whether meant or not, misinformation. It is simply not the case. As for group subbers being preferred by PSA, they do get preferred pricing, that's a fact. But does PSA prefer taking a submission from a group subber over an individual? Well, the answer to that question is no. And how can I tell you that with certainty? Because I called them. I spoke to them. I have a contact over there, and I asked them, because if that's the case, then I have to change what I do. And as far as PSA making it nearly impossible to submit on your own, that's not true either. I submit cards on a monthly, sometimes weekly basis. It's far from impossible. Trust me, if I'm doing it, it's downright easy. I explained my process in a video I did, and this isn't, a shameless plug to go check out my video, but I go through this whole process, and things have changed. But I assure you, it's not impossible. It's far from it. And I'm not sure why the influencer said that, but in the comments, he wasn't questioned about it. In fact, one of the interesting things about the comments is someone commented, and this is from my memory, was something like, "Well, I don't like using a group subber because I like to have control over my cards." And the content creator said, "Yeah, me too," which kind of contradicts everything that he put forth in his video, but I digress. See, that's the thing. My entire life was gathering information, putting information together, and back then it was to put cases together, to put bad guys in jail, and now I just use it to find out information about cards. I love doing it. I love going down that rabbit hole. So if someone says something to you, and you're unsure of the reason why, especially if it's going to make a difference on how you are doing things going forward, then I am begging you, I am bending the knee. Ask the questions. Another video I reviewed, and this was in the eyes of a new collector, and it was basically, what card should I collect? And if you're new, there's no better video to watch, right? You want to know what cards to collect, because That's going to be the basis of what you do going forward. And for the most part, the video is fine. I mean, I had some philosophical differences with the creator, but that's what we're talking about. There's no problem with that. Everyone has opinions. He talked about, what the collectors, investors like. They talked about, and this is specific to basketball. He did all the sports, but I'm talking specific to basketball. And he talked about, collecting Prism Optics Select, which is fine. Who could argue with that? I mean, you could argue that, some people are really pushing Select now, others not so much. Prism is always going to be, the king. People will argue with that, but that's fine. And he offered a lot of detail. But one of the things he said, again, kind of got me wondering. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, I wouldn't get wrapped up in Revolution and Phoenix and Chronicles and all this other stuff because most investors and collectors just don't value these sets. It's funny, that reminded me when I was with DEA, the agents would come in and they would talk to me about a case, and they would say something like, well, he would be just the one agent, and he would come in, and I'd say, like, well, why do you think this? And he would say, well, we think. And I always said, well, do you have a mouse in your pocket? Because you're the only one sitting there. But it just reminded me of that for some reason. But anyway, so he says about the Chronicles, he wouldn't get mixed up in Revolution Phoenix Chronicles because most investors and collectors just don't value those sets. That's an opinion. And once again, if I was new to the hobby, I may not know to question that assumption. Therefore, I could be missing out on some great buying, selling, and collecting opportunities. Now, before the Rookie of the Year was announced, Chronicles had already come out before that. And I knew that Ja Morant was going to be Rookie of the Year. There was no doubt in my mind. There's a lot of things I looked at, and from the preponderance of the evidence gathered, I knew that Ja Morant was going to be Rookie of the Year. It's actually funny because I saw a video of another content creator, and he was talking about Ja coming out. He lost 20 pounds, and people are asking, should I sell him, or should I hold him, or whatever it's going to be. And he said, well, if Ja wins Rookie of the Year, or not Ja, if Zion wins Rookie of the Year, then his cards are going to explode. He wasn't going to win Rookie of the Year. I don't know. I don't get that. That was not even, it was not going to happen. But I digress again. So Ja was going to win Rookie of the Year. As a Philly kid, that was what we would call a stone cold lock. Put it in writing, it's a done deal. And I knew when that happened, his card was going to go up, and it was going to be in demand. My son actually called and asked me, he goes, hey, Ja's going to win Rookie of the Year. I go, I know he is. He goes, Chronicles is out. There's some really cool Chronicle cards, and they're cheap, and you can pick them up. And I said, actually, I'm looking at them now, and I'm starting to pick some up. There's some cards out there that really look good. There's a card, the Luminance card. Jordan from Sports Card Analytics did a whole thing about it not too long ago. Check it out. It really goes into some detail. But I started to look at those Chronicle cards with Ja Morant and started picking them up. I was also looking at Prism Optics and Select at the same time, but they were super pricey. And actually, most at that time were probably already cherry-picked, so I felt that because Chronicles was reasonable, it was somewhere to go. And I started to buy a ton. And as I said, I thought they would grade well, and I thought that Ja Morant would be in demand. And I have a lot of them in for grading as we speak. My son bought them raw and flipped them pretty quick for a nice profit. He would sell like lots of Ja Morant after he hit Rookie of the Year, and he did very, very well. If you bought his Luminance, his iconic dunk card, where he's dunking over, I think, Kevin Love. He actually missed the dunk, but it's a great, awesome card. And again, go look at Jordan's video. He talks a lot about that. But I was picking them up back then for like 15, 18, 20 bucks. And now they're going for like 40 or 50 or maybe even more. I looked yesterday. And I'm taping this, I think, on January 8th. They're out of control. I mean, some of these are $60, $70, $80. These cards were really, really cheap. Well, not super cheap, but cheap enough back then. And now some of the graded 10s, some of the graded Luminance cards are coming back as 10s. And they're going for over $300. And some of the short prints, like their pink or bronze, are going for ridiculous prices. I think I saw one for $800. So your return on investment on Chronicles, I mean, don't take my word for it. Look for yourself. There is money to be made in these sets. And I know he's hurt right now, but he's going to be back. He's going to be fine. The research that I did, that you could have done, he's got a bright future. And remember, I'm not the town evaluator. This is information based on people that do know. So I was very comfortable in buying his Chronicles, knowing that there was a very, very good opportunity to make some profit. And that doesn't just go for Ja. You could pick up Zion, RJ Barrett, Tyler Hero. Go look at the PSA 10s, PSA, even some of the PSA 9s that come back on his cards. Again, you're going to have to look at the financial risk on these, because now you're looking at a $15 grade. These cards were, other than that, Luminance cards were, $2, $3 cards. If they come back at 10, they'll sell $80 to $100. Check it out yourself. But there is money to be made, and there is profit, if done correctly, to make on those sets. As far as Revolution, I actually got a question about my opinion on Revolution, and this is my opinion, okay? I like Revolution. There, it's my opinion. Collect what you want to collect. And, an interesting thing about Revolution, especially if you're a new collector, is sometimes players that interest you only appear in certain base sets. And one of those players that I was looking at last year in the bubble was a 76er named Shake Milton. He was doing really, really well in the bubble, and I thought after reading and researching, his role with the club will continue to grow. Nothing's a sure thing. Risk, reward. But one of the interesting things about Shake is he only appears in his NBA uniform in Revolution, in a base set. Not in Optic, not in Prism, he's not in Select. So as a collector or an investor in Shake Milton, that's where I had to go. Now, back in March, I picked up 2 Revolution Shake Milton cards. One was an Astro and one was a Groove. They were $15 a piece. And I was lucky in the grade. Actually, luck is the residue of hard work. So I think that, if you're lucky sometimes, it's because you did what you had to do to get you in that place. And I'm going to probably hold on to them. I'm a 76er fan, but for giggles, I went on eBay and I saw if there were any comps on the card. And someone had one advertised as an Astro on eBay. And I actually messaged them because I know it wasn't an Astro because I have the only one. As of now, and he didn't respond, but then he threw me an offer, I think, of like $350 or $400 for the Shake Milton Astro card. But show and tell, I actually have them. I figured I'd show you guys. It's it's a Groove and an Astro. So I like these cards. I like Revolution. Also go on eBay, look for the sold listings, and check out Trae Young, Luka Revolution. You're going to be like, whoa, these cards are some of them are just ridiculously expensive. Some of the guys that I looked at last year, RJ Barrett, Tyler Hero, Cam Reddish, Ja, Zion. I picked up some of their Revolutions. It's a fun set. But just to say it's not collectible is not good, usable information. Coincidentally, Tim from Mountain State Cardboard goes into great detail on Revolution.
When you talk about Revolution versus Prism, it is stunning to me how, in my opinion, the Luka Prism is incredibly overvalued as compared to the very undervalued Revolution rookie. And I'm going to use some data that was pulled, and I did some research on this because I didn't want to just, in talking about this, I didn't want to just make broad statements without any sort of statistical or factual backup. There's too much of that goes on in this world. Cards, not cards, whatever. There's too much of this just speaking something into truth.
And if you haven't had a chance to check out the whole podcast, I would definitely recommend it, because this is the kind of information and analysis that we should be looking for to educate us so we can make informed decision. There's actually another player that I'm researching right now, and his only appearance in a regular base set is an NBA Hoops Premium. He's also in a Panini Retro set, but you can find hidden gems in any and all sets and price points. Don't limit to yourself to cards and sets just because people tell you something. Make your own decision. So collect what you want to collect and do your own research. And the lesser known sets sometimes provide great margin. The devil is in the details. And speaking of great content, recently there's been a lot of discussion and questions about fractional ownership in sports cards. And I've gotten a lot of questions on that matter, and it's piqued my interest. What is it? How does it work? Is it worth it? And remember what I say before all my videos, I don't have all the answers, but I do know how to find them, and I do know how to search for people that find them. So if you're interested in learning more about fractional ownership, go check out this video by Cardi C. His background is in accounting, public accounting. He's got a CPA. He does an entire episode of this subject. And what I love about this episode, it's actually called Pros and Cons on Fractional Ownership. That's what we're looking for. Tell me why I should do it. Tell me why I shouldn't do it. Provide me with the information that will make me able to make the right choice. And that's all I ask for. That's all I ask for. So let me wrap this up with a quote. I love quotes, right? Quotes just interest me in so many different ways because they're just awesome. And I wish I could be smart one day to have, the Sports Investigator quote. Although some people do like card thoughts of the day, but I'm not going there. So let me wrap this up from a quote from John Moore, who said it best. He said, "Your opinion is your opinion. Your perception is your perception. Do not confuse them with facts or truth." So that's it, guys. Take all the information in. Don't be afraid to question the information. And once we do that, we will be better off because we will be better collectors, we will be better investors because we will have the tools that we need to succeed. So with that, if you like what you're seeing, hit the subscribe, hit the like button. Don't forget to give me a comment. What's your 2021 card resolution, card theory, whatever it is? I'll take a look at them. I'll pick some out. I'll announce them on the next show. Until next time, take care.